also joined throughout by our chief science correspondent, Robert Bazell, with us here in New York. Bob, how will, in your reckoning, the investigation this time, perhaps in duration, differ from Challenger? Do they know more these days in real time than they did then?
No, not really. And it's very important, Brian, to point out that the investigation into Challenger became a political investigation almost as much as an investigation into the technical aspects of the failure, because the technical aspects were discovered very early on. It was the O-ring design, but then it became that NASA had been cutting corners with safety, that there had been pressure to launch. Now, NASA, of course, afterwards promised not to do that, but I think that we're going to have to find out all the circumstances that surround this. The first thing to find out is what was the cause of this and how to fix it. The next thing is to find out is why that happened, and the why could be an enormously difficult and complex question involving personalities and politics. So it's very hard to know in these first few hours after this tragedy where the investigation is going to go. There was a lot of acrimony in 1986 that NASA was hiding the details of its engineering reports from people who should know. And even when the commission was set up to study the Challenger accident, it was very difficult to find people who weren't connected to NASA in some way to serve on it, because NASA is an organization that tries to protect itself like many bureaucratic organizations at times, and it's very hard to know, exactly what was the cause. We see that explosion right there of Challenger, and we've all seen those pictures a million times, but the cause of that explosion went far deeper into the organization that was running the space program. So that's not an accusation about what happened today. We have no idea about what happened today. We're just at the beginning, I think, though, of a very long road into finding out.
And Bob, we're now learning that they believe they found a door from the shuttle on the ground, and there's at least one blackened field of grass officials can see in the state of Texas. This is going to be a Herculean effort. They're using National Guard volunteers, Forest Service people to find this. We're talking about hundreds of square miles.
Oh, you were talking about hundreds of square miles, and almost certainly they're going to try to rebuild the shuttle in the same way that, if we recall, when TWA-800 went down into the ocean, they managed to get the parts off the ocean. These will be gathered over this long period and put together, because each piece does have, including that tile on the ground there that we see there, each piece does have a potential clue as to what went wrong to cause this tragedy. So everything is going to have to be looked at in great detail, and everything is going to have to be in a context about what was the pre-flight certification, or what were the data that were coming down from the spacecraft at the time of landing, what went on board the spacecraft, as much as could be reconstructed. All of this will have to be looked at in great detail. And I think it's going to be, the NASA administrator has already announced that he's going to set up a board outside of NASA as well as an internal board. But I think a lot of people on Capitol Hill and elsewhere are going to want to say, well, we want to make sure that is truly an independent board, to make sure that what happened here, whether it was preventable and to make sure that it won't happen again.
Bob Bazell with us from New York. We are joined now by telephone by Sheriff Thomas Kurz in Nacogdoches, Texas. Sheriff, what can you tell us about pieces of debris and folks who have stopped by the emergency room today?
Our county encompasses just under 1,000 square miles, and we have literally received hundreds of reports of debris that has fallen from the sky throughout our county. It's also my understanding that some surrounding counties that border us have debris as well.
Now, can you confirm, we've been looking at videotape of pieces of debris from the air on the ground, also a picture of what appears to be a fairly modern apartment house with the roof missing due to fire. Is that connected with this? Is that in your area?
No, I don't believe the site that you're referring to with the fire is anywhere near my area. Literally, the debris field is probably going to encompass hundreds, maybe even several thousand square miles. I don't know, but we do have numerous debris sites, literally hundreds within our county. So far, we have not received any report of any casualties from falling debris within our county. We do have several sites that have sustained some property damage.
With the folks in the emergency rooms, should we assume that they are taking warnings from folks like us and going to get checked, or do you have any reason to believe it's because of actual inhalation or injury from this toxic stuff that's on these parts?
The reports from the emergency rooms, again, I can't really confirm, other than maybe people are taking a precautionary measure to be checked. Certainly, we are encouraging through our local media here, as well as the national effort, that anyone that encounters a piece of debris not come in contact with it. We will send someone out, if they'll notify us where it is, check it for any type of radioactive material or toxicity. And, you know, please don't pick it up or try to move it.
Now, Sheriff, did you think this was going to be an average Saturday there in your town?
Well, certainly it started out that way this morning, but that certainly changed very quickly, as things in law enforcement tend to do.
Sheriff, thank you very much for being with us. Sheriff Thomas Kurz from Nacogdoches, Texas. A busy place for all the wrong reasons today. A very busy place this morning until we knew what we had here was the Department of Defense. They're being used in other ways, however. NBC News Pentagon correspondent is Jim Miklaszewski. And Mick, we're hearing that Air National Guard on foot, Forest Service, everybody's being marshaled that can get there to look for these parts.
That's right, Brian. For several hours, it appeared that the U.S. military was somewhat at a loss as to exactly how they could contribute or what their role would be in any kind of recovery effort. But since then, they've responded, and quite robustly. There are some 6 Air Force Reserve F-16s out of the Reserve Naval Air Station in Fort Worth. The Army is providing Black Hawk and Kiowa Warrior helicopters out of Fort Hood. The Texas Air National Guard is supplying C-130s to continue the search. U.S. Navy helicopters are being scrambled out of New Orleans. And even the Coast Guard is...
Before it reaches the air of the atmosphere, which then allow the wings to take over and those control surfaces. As it comes down and encounters the atmosphere, its first taste of the atmosphere, if you will, at 400,000 feet, it pitches up very nose high. And the idea here is to present these black tiles on the bottom side to the heat, because those are the more hardy tiles. And they are the ones that take the real weight of the matter as far as the heat dissipation. You're trading speed for heat. And beneath those tiles, and there are some 20,000 tiles or thereabouts, beneath them is the aluminum frame of a shuttle, which would melt with the 2,000 plus degrees Fahrenheit. Now, if you notice, it's because these steep pitching motions, right before this breakup over Houston, it was taking a steep 57-degree left turn, just like this. And those S-turns are part of the process of slowing it down, getting it ready for its final approach to the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. It was in one of those steep left turns immediately prior to the breakup. Was a steep left turn. Now,